Some trees are actually like just go.
At 6 o'clock, we'll call the meeting to order. Pledge of allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call.
Osborne.
Here.
Bender.
Here.
Walker.
Here.
Beam.
Here.
Siebel.
Here.
I need a motion for the approval of the agenda.
So be it. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? I need a motion to approve the consent agenda. Oh, the minutes, I'm sorry.
I'll make a motion to approve July 6th regular meeting minutes. Second.
Roll call vote.
Osborne.
Yes.
Bender.
Yes.
Walker.
Yes.
Beam.
Yes.
Siebel.
Yes.
Now I need a motion for the consent agenda.
Motion to accept the consent agenda. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So the next item is Chris Fisher's legal landing update.
I'm here to just give you a quick update you on kind of what we talked about from the last time. I think the big focus was focusing on hotel, trying to find somebody for that corner I call lot 1, that 3.6 acres. So I reached out to a number of different hotel users right now to try to find. I work with a lot of industries in Des Moines, looking to do hotels, looking to do different site projects. And ran into a little struggle with newer hotels we get built with lumber costs right now. It's a tough time to look to build new construction hotels. But knowing that we'll hopefully come back down, I think we'll have a good, I know we have a great site to build, it's just a matter of finding the right person. I talked to another hotel user that would like to consider building one, but wants to see the amusement park open a little bit longer to kind of see what that's going to generate for hotel stays and so forth. So, no particular offers at this point in the hotels, but definitely it's been in front of, I would say, 10 to 12 different hotel companies. And they've all said, hey, this looks like an interesting site, we like it. Some saying construction cost was too high, majority of them said that. Others said it was a little too far from the amusement park. Others said they like it, they want things to relax and go back to normal from what challenges that we ran into. So definitely still possibilities there. Like we talked about in the last meeting, we had the site plan for the 2 small strip malls on that particular lot. I talked to the developer. He is willing to move that to a secondary lot, whether next door to a hotel, next door to that corner site. We put that in a number of different retailers, trying to get some activity on that. Feedback's been good, but it is a little slow going right now. We're just trying to get people back in the retail game and looking to build new. So it just takes a little bit more time. One favor I'd like to get from you guys is just, we're still working on the site plan and getting it defined, if that pond's gonna be there, what that's gonna look like. A lot of the hotel users looking at it like that pond feature. I'm just afraid that the cost / the real estate that it takes up would take away from the income that can be generated from it. So still waiting for engineers to provide that to me so that we can market the accurate information. So the sooner I get that, I know that will help in the process.
And I spoke to him today. And so they are trying to figure out what they're going to do with that. We changed that kind of water feature around to a bigger feature at the end of the development. And he tells me it's got water in it now. So it will be a natural water feature down there, not quite as spectacular as maybe originally drawn.
And there's talk of trails being made down here by the water features, which I think all those are great amenities, just knowing officially if that's gonna happen, so that I can market it appropriately. I just need to offer those, or providing this drawing to me, the marketing pieces, and find out that pond's not going there, or something changes, and all of a sudden it doesn't look maybe as attractive, or just trying to be accurate on my side.
Because we really didn't the drawings we have so far don't even really reflect the green space and the potential trails at that end that we talked about.
So just having a more defined plan on their end would help me, so, you know. So happy to have additional meetings if it makes sense with them, they come up or whatever, sit down with them and kind of get more of a defined, site plan to work on.
So, now Jason Huff was the developer of the strip center, and he's willing to be flexible on
On the site, and I mean, ultimately, it comes down to the tenant, so if the tenants are willing, this is a nice corner that is positioned onto the hotel. So ultimately, if the tenants are willing to take the next tier over, next to the hotel, or the restaurant or different play there, he's willing to do so.
Good.
This is probably his favorite site, like most will have that being the best spot. So ultimately, but if we get that large hotel to go there, it's only gonna help retail around it, so.
Well, Chris, one of the things that we had talked about briefly was signs. And I was proposing a separate sign from your sign. And so our discussions were kind of centered around the size of that sign. And I had just thrown 4x8 out there. Charles, I think you were saying.
10 by 20.
Yeah, 10 by 20. You got any input on that as far as?
Absolutely, typical signs we use are 4x4 and then 4x8. So we used to do a lot of just a typical 4x4 real estate signs out there, and then we went to the 4x8, just a lot bigger presence. So we do, the largest signs we do is 4x8. Been involved with some signs that get bigger, but not as often. Very permanent ones when you get bigger than the 4x8, just have to prepare for the wind challenges and some of that. So definitely open to a larger sign. I think the key is just what we put on it. We had a drawing put up, just putting the current site plan on it, showing what that would look like. But of course, we don't want to put this on there until we have the correct site plan, So we typically do a 4x8, that's the most common. I would probably start there, but definitely open for something bigger if it makes sense and if we get it positioned right and beefed up enough for the wind and the challenge that comes with that.
Well, I was proposing, as I said, a separate sign from yours. And one that just mentions Evansdale specifically and Eagles Landing. So we just have to decide on size, I guess.
I think somebody brought up a good point. 4x8 going down the highway at 70 miles an hour, you're not gonna really see it that well. That's why I was in favor of a larger sign, more known going by, can see it possibly. That's what I'd like to see on the interstate side. That's just my feelings and beliefs on what I wanna see done. I'm not a believer on the 4x8. I think a 10 by 20 or a 10 by 15 or something like Charlie said. We wanna get this to have a lot of notoriety. I mean, there's a lot of money invested here, a lot of your time, and so, the biggest bang for the buck that we can get to have people see it can certainly help calling a developer or real estate and say, hey, just like Mid-America did a while back, we come by and see them starting or something, and boom, they were in there talking to us about an issue. So I'm in favor of a larger sign than the 4x8.
I think it comes down to the goal. It's a goal to get their attention and know there's a development here and actually have a defined site plan on that large sign. Or is it a goal to have, to catch their attention and say that looks like a great location, then they pull into that development and then they see the site plan right when they pull in, getting past McDonald's or something. So to me, it comes down to the goal. Is the goal to say, we want a large sign saying just for sale and the information there, or do we want a sign showing a very large site plan of what we're offering? So that would determine what we can read. If we go and put a very large sign, still going at a fast distance, are you gonna be able to really make out what we have here? So it just comes down to the information we want to portray.
Well, the one that you have on the interstate side now, is that 4x8?
I believe it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think if we went any larger, I can't see going bigger than 8 to 12.
Yeah.
It's kind of my.
Well, I'll try to get some examples of the sizes and then we can take a look at some photos and see what seems to be the most workable for us.
And maybe we can get together with it, really the image we want on there, then define what we want to market and advertise, so we have the right, we can get the biggest sign in the world, but ultimately, depending on what we put on there is what's going to be seen and noticed. So I think that's going to be the key in addition to the sign.
Good. Anybody else?
Did Chris see the one that you sent to us, the number one picture?
No, I had sent some information to Print Transformations. I don't know if you use them or do business with them, but they sent back 3 proofs of some version of what I had sent them. And that's, so Chris probably hasn't seen that.
It showed the site plan as we have it now, which we both know that lake's gonna be moved probably. And then it said Evansdale, the city of good neighbors, and had the eagle flying in. Or the eagle was very catching, I thought. The sign really spoke to you when you looked at it. It just was the wrong picture on it.
Oh yeah, that is eye-catching, that eagle does.
It catches your eye real quick.
Absolutely. And I like that, I like the 3D rendering showing structures there. Is there something on there that says for sale? Is there something on there? Are we just introducing the development? So those are things we gotta think about is we just wanna introduce the development, we wanna let them know there's opportunities there, and which direction we wanna really promote with that sign. I think that first one looked really attractive. It's just, what, is that just telling, hey, we have a development here, or is that saying there's lots available? Or maybe that's what my sign next to it just illustrates the for sale aspect of it. And seeing this.
You also should have building properties available on it.
And then I always think a lot of times you.
I throw this out to you, Dick. On the opposite side, the lakeside, Media Quest has electronic sign of 14 by 48 over there that they pay rent to have there. You could go to like Media Quest or whatever and waive the rent fee and let them put the electronic sign coming into Waterloo and in trade get a 10-second blip once a minute
For the
on a 14 by 48 electronic.
Yeah.
And
No, that's not a bad idea, but they don't pay rent to us.
they pay rent, those on that side, they pay the landowner. This side here, you would be they pay rent, what is it, Rick gets it? Rick Ryder owns that property on that side over there. And if you put one here, the way the DOT set up, they wanted to put on this side of the deal, but it's got number one DOT, it's gotta be in city limits, it's gotta be zone commercial, and that way you fill out your fit, and you gotta be so many feet away from the off-ramp point, which I can't remember what it is right now, but I thought it was like 400 and some feet. We looked at it once when Miser owned that property out there, when he was still alive, and they had a deal worked out, and then, well, Mr. Miser died, but they were gonna put a billboard down on the property, down where you talked about the vehicles, where you've been talking about that out there. But you could put one all the way at the east end of the property, I believe. And it's just a DOT permit to fill out to get the form, but it's gotta be zone commercial number one, and it's gotta be so many feet away from that exit.
Something to consider. I mean, we certainly haven't, if you wouldn't think it would be a huge distraction for anybody else.
Yeah, I'm assuming you guys are thinking just further on that exit there, maybe even down by the water feature or close to it,
Yeah, no, that's not a
It
bad
makes
idea.
sense, it'd be a freebie for you, and when this thing, if it fills up or whatever, you can use it for advertising things going on in town.
Mhm.
Lots of you
Good.
just
Take it under
keep ownership of
consideration.
that, so if you ever put on one of the lots, you just keep a square ownership of that lot, and get rent to be for the ground lease or whatever construction was, so that's great possibilities.
Good. All right, thanks, Chris.
Thanks for coming in, Trevor. Appreciate it.
So, the next item is the approval of the resolution calendar. Need a motion?
They kind of, I just want to bring in just rules. If it's unfeasible, fine, but under the resolution calendar and the consent agenda, I'd like us to consider that before we motion and second, and it's a done deal, to have discussion, then if there's no discussion, then make a motion and second, because once you make a motion and second, it don't matter if you wanna pull something or do something different. You've already made a motion and second, unless somebody wants to withdraw it, and I doubt if they're gonna withdraw it once it's set to go. Not that there'd be a lot in those categories, but I think I've seen it done that way in other municipalities. I'd kinda like to see us do that here.
I think the Roberts rules is that you have the motion in a second, just to make sure there's enough interest to even have a discussion. And then you can vote on it and table it. Now, I mean, you don't have, some cities have adopted their own rules of order that apply to their council meetings, and so I don't know, they could very well vary from that. Evansdale doesn't have a rules of order for the council meeting, but that's, my understanding is that's the purpose of the motion in the second, prior to the discussion. And then, to make a motion, you can choose how you vote when it's time to vote, I guess, or even vote on the table.
I'd be open to it, I guess we could poll the council and see if in the future meetings we want to do it that way. Are you talking about combining the consent agenda and
No, they can stay the way they're paraphrased, but just making them open for discuss, say we've got the consent agenda, is there any discussion on the consent agenda? And then if nothing goes on or nobody says, hey, pull this, I'd like to talk about this, then do that at that time, and then when you make the motion in second, you're done with it, rather than maybe somebody wanting to make some conversation on stuff, but it's too late, you motion and second it. Very seldom have I heard anybody ever say, I'll take my second back, so that's.
Could you still, even after the second, there's a right for discussion? And then at that point, whoever made the motion, I'm sure would pull it so that could be pulled out. I don't see any hard heads in here that would work on that, but there's a lot of options to get something moved out of it. We always have a discussion after the second.
And just say the step I have and say, I want this pulled or whatever, then you gotta go back and see where they take their second away and their motion away, and then take that off of that particular vote. That is just sometimes we're kind of got the cart ahead of the horse.
Have a motion first. It was our, couple of minutes ago, was one that wanted motion and second before we do any discussion. We used to discuss it first. I
That's
don't
what
have
I'm
any
in
problem with
favor
that
of.
either.
well,
Laura said, cities kind of adopt what works for their council.
so we do have Leanne pointed out to me, we do have a statement about no separate discussion before there's a motion. On your approval of the resolution calendar, there's a statement there that says there will be no separate discussion on these items until there's a motion. But I'm assuming that's just our rules of order.
Well, my question would be, that would stop you from doing anything.
Yeah.
What that says, that's why I'm bringing this paraphrase up.
Yeah. No, I have no problem checking into it, so. All right. So, did we get a motion?
That's it.
Okay. I'm
We're still
looking for a
discussing.
motion. Well, we're sticking to the old rules for now.
Or it's not.
So I need a motion.
You have the motion for the resolution calendar.
Second.
Motion and a second, that's a roll call vote.
Did you want to discuss
Not tonight.
it? Osborne? Bender?
Yes.
Walker?
Yes.
Dean?
Yes.
Siebel?
Yes.
So number 9 is a request from the Parks Department to proceed with electrical upgrade. Do you want to explain that, Tom?
A few months ago, our engineer that was looking into sewer, we also had to look into electrical. The reason for that is that Roger has had to, both last summer and this summer, put fans on our electrical boxes, heat and cooling. We've got so much of these newer units coming in, that it's drawn enough that it's hot in circuits and everything else, unless we put these fans on. So we had the engineer take a look at it, and when we, took it out for bid, Mid-America ended up coming down with Blackhawk Electric. Blackhawk Mid-America says there's no way that we're gonna touch any of their electrical panels where it's metered unless we raise it up in the air, like we did the last one. So what we wanna do is we want to basically, bring in 800 amp service. Basically what that's gonna do is do what we did on the other side. With Fogall and the Benhoff edition, and then half of the lower section, that's all in that 800 amp panel that's raised up in the air. Basically what we'll do now is basically we're gonna do the other half, which comprises of that upper half that goes toward the shower house. And then half of the lower section. And also to include, I think there's like 6 sites down by the boat ramp. What it does not include is the lots up here by the tent area that's electrical, okay? And that's where, if you look at your bid, there's actually 2 bids on there. There's one for the 69, and that covers just the upper half. And then there's an additional one for the 24,920, that will cover this half, the lower section. Basically what that does is that brings the whole campground basically into 2 800 amp services, except for the small section up here by the shower house. Which, if we flood, our turnaround time of opening is gonna be a lot faster. We'd be able to turn around probably within a couple of weeks and reopen that campground after a flood. Right now, we can't do that because of the electrical panels and working with Mid-America and everything else. So,
That would be on a raised tower like the other one is in
yes,
town.
and that's part of the reason why the cost is a little higher too, is because of lumber prices right now also. You gotta put, what is that, Chris? How tall is that? 18, 20 foot tower, supposed to be higher than the 500-year flood. So that tower is technically higher than the dike is. So.
Tom, you want to speak just briefly to the fact that you only have one bid?
We only have one bid. Roger contacted 4 or 5 different companies besides Blackhawk. We also contacted ourselves, 2 or 3 different companies. They came in and they don't have the bodies. So they couldn't bid on it. I mean, I would love to have another bid, but we tried, we couldn't get one. They say they don't have the bodies to work, nobody's working.
Is this urgent where, like, we couldn't wait for another, next year and ask for bids, or is that something, I'm sorry, like, how urgent to raise those electricals?
This is kind of goes in with the sewer project that we're doing and also with the new amusement park. Right now, we've been full 3 times this year with no electrical sites available.
I think,
So-
Tom, if you look back, the last couple times that we had bids go out, and we had multi-bids, Blackhawk was not the lowest, but we went to them because they've done all the work through the city. We trust them, they know where everything's at. In essence, they're faster, quicker, and cheaper on any repair jobs that we have to have. So,
That is one advantage of Blackhawk. They do know that park like the back of their hand.
I'm not been out of shape about only having one, as long as it happens to be Blackhawk. If it was somebody I didn't know anything about, I would probably be a little perturbed about it. But
Well, my opinion was they made a good faith effort to try to obtain bids. And I felt like if we documented that, we were covered. The only place it would probably show up is in an audit.
Well, that's the discussion we had the last meeting. What do you do if nobody bids on it? You know,
Yeah,
You can't get multi bids if you send out 10 applications and only one comes back.
I just wouldn't want it to set precedents. Somebody looks back, says we took a $90,000 bid, one bid. Some people may frown on that and say, well, why didn't you get two? I understand what Tom's saying, what you're saying. And I don't know, that's not my thing to work data check. I find it really wrong that somebody wouldn't want to bid on a $100,000 project.
But you gotta have the bodies to do it.
I
One
understand
guy
that.
that I was down there with him, he says, I would love to bid on this job right now. But he says it's gonna take 4 or 5 guys, at least 4 or 5 guys to do this job. He says, I don't have the bodies. I can't get the bodies. I've tried. So, and that was, Eason, something like that. He's out of Dyke, over in that area. So we went even outside the metro area looking for people to bid on this. And
yeah. And I'm generally familiar with some of these electrical costs, and these do not look out of line for a commercial 800 amp application.
And like I said, part of this reason that, and it's, especially the 69,000 is higher, is because of building this tower to raise it up out of the, he says that shot the price up pretty good because of the lumber costs.
And this is some of your leftover grant money from what I understand.
Yes, I think what we've got left over will cover this, if I'm not mistaken, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
What are your plans for the little section that you don't have upgraded electrical on? Do you do you need to get that too?
Back in the, no, not really, because even though that floods, that doesn't flood as high as often as what the lower section does and the Van Hoff and the Fogville addition does. That's on more of a higher ground. As a matter of fact, part of this bid also is to take the electrical from the lift station that's down in that circle and move it up to the shower house where it's up out of the water as well.
So then you wouldn't have to do anything with them at all? I mean, Mid-America would look at them,
Yeah.
they would ready touch it and stuff?
Well, Mid-America, if these back in here are on a meter,
Uh-huh.
basically Mid-America will say you can't turn that on until you get that panel cleaned out,
Mm,
okay? Which, back in here, even though this past couple of years, we've had a lot of campers in there, that's one section that wouldn't be that hard to cut off for a couple extra weeks, as long as we could get the rest of the campground open and moving, then I think we're doing good, so.
What about the other side of the road on the little section? Where's that gonna pull from?
That's pulling from this,
From the new thing too?
Yes.
Okay.
Mark?
I would like to see if you're gonna do this, that documentation before it's passed, have a list of everybody that was contacted and the contact person of every company, so they can't come back and say, no, they're doing this out. It ought to be on file of every firm that was contacted.
Sometimes though, those people just don't call back.
And sometimes they don't, but
yeah, and we had a couple of those.
there's big companies out of Cedar Rapids that come up here to do work, Deer and all over the place, that have a lot of bodies. So I think it ought to be put out there.
Good. So, I need a motion to approve or no?
I'll make a motion to approve the request.
Second?
I have a motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Start?
Start anybody.
We probably won't start till fall.
Winter
Probably
close.
sometime after Labor Day, when a lot of the people start leaving because of school, or after we close. So, thank you.
Good.
Dick, was that gonna include the documentation then? I see the city clerk sitting there shaking her head yes when you need documentation on.
We can, yeah, I'll work on
Everybody.
that. I'll get ahold of Roger, see who we contacted and who responded back. Who did.
Okay. Just
And
wonder
I
if
think
it's
we
gonna be
might even,
documented.
I don't know if they got it in the minutes or not, but I know at the last meeting we discussed it. Dick was there, and so.
Number 10 is a request from the city clerk to enter into the annual agreement with computer troubleshooters in the amount of $7,290.
I'll make a request for troubleshooters for IT work.
Second.
Motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The next item is a request from the police department to enter into an agreement with VGM in the amount of $18,000 for managed network services.
Mike, can you just give us a little update of what we're doing now versus what you wanna do going forward?
To the best of my ability, sure. We're with a company right now called Bergen. We've been with them for a number of years. Not necessarily saying anything bad about Bergen, but I know there's been a lot of struggles over the years with our system and getting things corrected, some of the issues that we've had. There's been several viruses here recently that they've just been unable to deal with. I know that Stephanie has talked with Deanne quite a bit about who they use and whatnot, and they settled on VGM.
Are they different service than the city? They couldn't go into the city and have troubleshooters do their stuff, or is it a different parameter of work?
They have, excuse me, I'm gonna address what you said. So they have had Bergen KDV. We've been encouraging them for several years to have a full-time service. So they're, like the city has, it's constantly checked. It's, you know, they have whatever, the technical stuff. And this is kind of, we just had a really extreme incident at the police department and we really needed to move forward. And, cause it's constant, it's 24/7 and they haven't had that at the PD ever before, so.
I think just the support that we're needing versus what we're getting out of Bergen just isn't there. So that's why we're looking for another firm to handle it.
So, as I understand it, Deanne, we had a pretty close, police department had a pretty close call with a potential hack.
Yes,
And it was a nationwide. So we got lucky on that one.
and our insurance company ended up paying $40,000 for that claim.
What is the difference in price between the Bergen and the VGM? I mean, is there a huge difference?
Yes. I mean, they don't,
I don't have that price off the top of my head. I'm not sure what it is.
and I don't believe I have a price for them. The other one was Aces on Cedar Falls.
I need a motion for that request.
I'll make a motion to approve the request from the police department to enter into this agreement with VGM Portland for services in the amount of $18,648 for FY '22 managed network services.
Second.
Motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So the next item is to direct the city clerk to submit a petition for a general election item.
I'd make a motion to have her submit the petition to the general election public measure.
Second.
And that, you want to explain what that measure is?
What's the petition state? Okay.
We received a petition at the city with several signatures on it. And the request from the public is to combine waterworks with the city.
So that'll be on the ballot in the fall. And we're not really, the request is not really one for the council to approve the petition or not. It's just to allow it to be placed on the ballot. And it's really out of the council's hands anyway. It's a formality.
You're right, Dick. The code section states that upon receipt of the petition, the council shall submit it at the next regular city election. But we do need this in the minutes and the council has to direct the clerk to submit it. So you don't really have a choice, and as you said, it's no indication of the council's position It's just a formality that you have to go through.
Yeah, strictly a formality. So I need a motion on that.
We got a
I
motion
made that
second.
motion.
We just need-
Oh, we did?
Yeah.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So the next item is discussion, possible action on 111 Bright Street. You want to explain that a little bit?
Yeah, sure. So 111 Bright Street is the 657A petition that we had filed. Previously, this is the property owned by Sally Spalding. We did have a hearing on this matter, let's see, June, I believe it was. But in any event, the court ruled in the favor of the city. I have suggested that the city wait 30 days, which that will end next week before taking any action, because there are appeal rights for the first 30 days. And then after 30 days, Ms. Spalding has no additional rights to appeal the court's decision. And so the property will then be awarded to the city. The title will be in the name of the city of Evansdale. And so your next step is to determine what you want to do with that property. And so, typically, the city will either sell it as is. You can choose to rehabilitate the property yourself. Or you can also, and I know the city of Waterloo oftentimes will sell it with a development agreement that gives the developer some timelines to take certain actions to clean the property up. Because of course, what we don't want is to sell it and have it remain an abandoned nuisance property. So therefore, the city of Waterloo, I know, typically will have this development agreement where you give whoever is going to, be awarded the property will have a certain amount of time to do whatever you agree to in this development agreement. So it's time to think about what you want to do. Like I said, it's going to be at least a week before I would suggest taking any formal action, but think about what you want the next step to be, so that perhaps at your next council meeting, you'll be ready to take some action on this property, and hopefully, I anticipate your choice will be to get it off of your hands, so hopefully, get it off of your hands sooner rather than later, but, if you want to keep it and rehab it as a city, that's certainly your choice as well.
It's beyond rehab. So it's my opinion, and Brian's as well, that it's a demo project. So what I'm asking the council to consider is we have Laura write up an agreement that we would deed that property to somebody to tear it down, but give them a very short period of time to do it, like 6 weeks.
And like with other development agreements, before we can transfer the property, we'd have to have a hearing on the matter as well. So you have to have a public hearing. So, we can find someone who's interested, put it out for bid, open bids, however you want to handle that, and then set it for public hearing, transfer the property. So you're still looking a few months down the road realistically before anything can change, but I don't think we want to make that decision, because if you want something to happen before winter, we need to kind of get these wheels in motion now.
And we would, require a demolition permit, and it's got a septic tank, so that would have to be filled in. So there'd be a few conditions in addition to the demolition and cleanup of the property. One of the things I wasn't sure about is allowing the owner to take their possessions.
It's the city's property, so there's nothing that would prohibit you from doing that. If you wanted to kind of send that olive branch, reach out and give them a time to meet you there, if they want, there's certainly nothing that prohibits it. And, perhaps if they are interested in anything, that would open up some interest by other bidders who wouldn't have to clean up quite as much, perhaps.
Well, the roof's leaked for quite a while, so there's not a lot in there. But we really didn't bring it up to the owners about the possibility of salvaging possessions. Does the council have any problems with allowing her to go back in? And
I On that particular part of it, no, I don't have any objection.
As long as it doesn't drive on, she's had all this time already.
That's right, she's had some since September.
So we could probably just informally work that out, don't you think?
I think that could be informally worked out, yeah. I'd wait until after the appeal deadline before reaching out. No one has reached out to me since we received the order. So that's what I would do.
More she takes out to us, we got them all away.
Yeah, so I don't know if anyone's had a chance to look at it, but if you're interested, you could drive by and take a look at it, but I don't see rehab at all, so.
If we let her on the property after it's in the city's name, is there any liability if she gets hurt? So maybe we should think about not letting her back on there to get her possessions. If the possessions were worth anything, she should have taken them by September. Just something to think about. 'Cause I don't know what type of person you're dealing with, but it can happen.
Yeah, it would be city property. So the same liability would be there as it would on any other city property.
So, but she actually could do that before the appeal time was up, right?
In theory.
In theory, yeah.
So what happens if we get no bids, nobody wants to tear it down for the property? What about us tearing it down and then selling the their property?
That's probably what it would come to.
I mean, one way or the other, I'd like to see it down before snow comes.
Yeah. Well, I'm
Before it gets
reluctant,
hurt.
I'm reluctant to have the city crew tear it down.
I
And
don't think they're not trained in all the stuff that has to be taken out of those houses.
those guys can do it, those guys and gals can do it all, Jane. But I don't think it's the best use of their time. The only other side of that, though, is it would cost us.
Don't get me wrong, Mr. Mayor, I was not challenging their ability, I was challenging their certificates.
Yeah.
the fire department be?
Yeah, could they do a burn down?
For training,
That's the thought, throw out there.
I'm sure you'd like
Just
me.
stay call it demolition away.
Just a little information regarding that. I've got a property that I just recently bought outside of Hudson. It's got an old house on it, and I offered it to the city of Hudson if they wanted to burn it down. And I found out that there's extremely a lot of red tape involved in doing that. You have to take materials and go get it tested by the state and all kinds of stuff. So I don't know if that's a realistic possibility, but just throwing that out there.
Well, all the carcinogens and pollution that's put into the air would be a concern, I think.
Yeah.
But we can check into it.
I know the neighbors down in Roosevelt will be happy to see it gone, because I've had many of them call me, even when I first got on the console, and they still call me and they're tickled pink that they've heard this. So, I myself am in favor of demolishing it down and trying to sell the land for what it costs us to demolish it to recoup the cost, but I'm only one vote.
All right, well, we'll know better,
After the 30 days.
yeah, after the appeal, so, good. So the next item is along those lines. We're directing the street department to remove a shed from 1646th Street. And that time was up today, I believe, so that he's authorized to do it tomorrow morning.
He has moved in a bunch more stuff, I went up there today. You need to drive by it. I mean, I don't know, this is a separate issue, but stuff on the property, stuff that's looking terrible, nuisance. There's a lot of nuisance there, but we're only focusing on the building. But somebody needs to take a look there and decide, is there any kind of action we can take to clean that up? I mean, the yard's tall and grass, and there's equipment laying everywhere, and sauna bathtubs, and I mean, there's a little bit of everything. It seems more stuff comes in all the time. Am I right, Mark, or wrong?
You're right, and it's been 2 years.
Well, all I know is that Brian has written a lot of citations and had a hard time serving that owner.
But didn't we get him served to get it mowed
Josh has
last,
a lot of experience with,
didn't we get him served to get it mowed the last time?
I can't even keep up with it, I'm not sure.
Well, this has been going on for a long time. I stayed out of it. But when this spring we had the high wind, and plywood flew off, hit my house. The insulation, bad insulation and everything was flying all over the neighborhood. And I didn't say a word, I just took it over and threw it back in the yard. And I don't know mosquitoes, I don't know if them 2 hot tubs sitting there holding water or not, been sitting there since last fall. They're just junked out, city clerk or city attorney, you think Bright Street is this place? I haven't called, the neighborhood don't know what's going on, you see people climbing across the roof at night and sliding down and tearing screens off and breaking into the place. And this has been going on for a long time. I know the guy's got problems, but that's not the neighborhood's problem. That's a city problem.
Laura's associate, Josh Moon, has been working with Brian on that property for a number of months, maybe longer. So,
Can the city go back on mow it the second time, or do we gotta go through all this stuff again?
yeah,
The guy's got 2 zero turns sitting right there in his yard and don't even mow it.
well, so one problem at a time, Mark, and.
Well, the shed and all should have been one big problem handled, except for just going after the shed.
It's not that simple, is it?
I don't think it is.
No. So tomorrow, Chris and his guys are gonna solve the problem that we're, able to solve.
The price of lumber now, they ought to give the 2x8s to somebody.
So I need a motion, to allow that demolition of that shed.
I make a motion to request, let the public works go down there and remove the shed totally at 1646th Street, and are we going to have a police officer there during this occurrence?
I don't know, I kinda thought it might be a good idea,
Yeah, we're at your disposal.
yeah,
It was brought up that maybe one should be there, just whatever, in case there's something goes on when they're trying to take it down, so we have legal people involved.
I'm familiar with Mr. Settles, yes.
yeah, it could escalate.
I'll second it.
Who knows?
Right, that's what I'm getting at.
Yeah. Who seconded?
Jean.
Gene. So I have a motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Now, we didn't vote on, 111 Bright Street.
No, we're not.
But we won't until we get an agreement. So, the next item is a request from Operation Threshold for the $2,500 that we budgeted.
I have a question about that. So I see that it's for road signs. Don't we already have road signs for the city of Evansville?
This is the one.
One up there, we're not on that right now.
Oh, sorry. That was,
16.
I skipped over it, sorry. I'm done with Operation
Yeah, no, I
Threshold.
know it.
I'm
I know it.
kidding. I'm kidding.
I'll make a motion to, or in discussion.
No, I don't think we have a motion.
Okay, I'll make a motion to request to enter an agreement with Operation Threshold for community services provided in the amount of $2,500 as we have budgeted for this next year, FY 2022.
Second.
Motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. The next request is from the mayor, actually, to hire service signing to assist us with the road closure on Dubuque Road for next Thursday morning for the Ragbri, traffic. City staff met with the Ragbri volunteers, and we've talked about traffic control on Dubuque Road, because we can block off Lafayette and we could do Evans, but we weren't quite sure what to do with Dubuque Road. We're talking 15,000 riders in a period of 4 hours. So what I'm proposing is that we hire the sign company to switch all the traffic to the northbound line or the north lanes, east-west, and we leave the south lanes open for the riders. And that amount was $2,500, and Ragbri will reimburse us for that. But in talking to Mike and Chris and everybody involved, it's the safest way to go. I don't know what else we could do.
I think that's a phenomenal option. I certainly would encourage you to go with that. It alleviates a lot of issues for us at the different intersections down Dubuque Road. It will make Elk Run a little easier for us to manage. And the most difficult area for us to manage will be Plaza and Dubuque, and we'll have hopefully at least 3 officers there, so.
And Mike's gonna be fully staffed. right?
Yeah, I expect to have at least 8 officers. Hopefully fire department's gonna help out. I know the sheriff's office is hoping to have at least a couple guys in our area to help as well, so I think we've got it pretty well covered.
And Chris and his guys are standing by to help block off streets and direct traffic if necessary. And we don't really know what to expect. I mean, the moving horde of 15,000 riders is pretty incredible. And we have a great volunteer Ragbri committee that has contacted, I believe they said 100 businesses to let them know that you're not gonna be able to get to your business possibly, like the metal recycling business and EPI are both aware of the fact that that morning is gonna be off limits for
I
a
know
lot.
the duty shop's closing on Thursday.
Oh, yeah. So, I don't know, without that committee, how we would have handled it all. They wanted the city to do more, but, I think we did what we could do.
I'd make a motion, we allow the mayor to hire the service side.
Second.
Motion and a second, all approved,
Aye.
opposed? So, public discussion,
I just got 2 things, Dick.
Oh, go ahead,
Or-
I'll wait for you.
Okay, it was just on the last one. What happens is when we get to the city limits, what's Elk Run doing?
well, we're going to Plaza Drive.
Does Elk Run then to Plaza Drive, once it gets to Plaza Drive,
They're on their own.
they're on their own on a 2-lane road
That's
and,
not our problem.
and all the traffic's gonna be, yeah.
What do
Okay.
you want us to do, be involved?
The sheriff's
No.
office is gonna be handling the
It's
traffic.
gonna be pretty interesting, you know, you got a 2-lane road and and the other thing, back to your number 13, the Bright Street. 'Cause I've worked doing some demolition with some other people now, that also, you have to have the asbestos. So you might as well get a contractor that's licensed and everything, because even the asbestos for that, they could have the floor tiles. They all used to be made out of asbestos. And City of Waterloo does the same thing, you have to go in and it's all gotta be, you gotta have somebody go in and say there's no asbestos in that building,
They can't do that.
okay?
Well, the way we would possibly handle that is, we would take bids and award it to the highest bidder. That would be their problem
Yeah,
after that.
I know
In a
there's
short period of time.
I know there's contractors interested in trading it out, demolishing it for the property.
Yeah, okay. Joe?
Hi, my name's Joe Wright, I live on Evans. I'm just kind of here
What's your
to,
address on that?
533 Evans. I'm just here to try to get Evansdale Days back. Try to get support, get approval, so I can get started now, so I can have it next year. Try to get the motion going, try to get people to support it.
So I was talking to Joe a little earlier and suggested that we would put it on one of the future agendas if he'd like to
Yeah,
to sort of start outlining it and gauge support.
That's kind of what I
I
think.
think don't we have the fire department involved in wanting to have it? We don't have that now.
No, they don't want to have much.
I suggested to Joe that maybe he contacts Donna and revises the chamber because of their status and their permits. It would make it a lot easier for him as a nonprofit making. Their papers are already in with the state and stuff. It'd be a simple way to do it. Before in all of it, the only thing that the city was ever involved in, to my knowledge, in 6 years, was we give $2,500 for fireworks. The rest of it, the chamber raised the money.
The city always dug the mud volleyball pits and
Well, they dug them, yes. I'm talking about cash out of the city treasurer.
yeah.
Well, I'm a believer, Joe, you're bringing it up tonight, it's a good thing. I think all these communities around, all this fireworks lingo we've had and heard and talked and complained and applauded, I honestly think Evansdale should look into having, one year we had the fireworks down at the park and a company put it on and it was a fantastic show. And I think if our city got behind that and done that, we might eliminate some of the house people thinking they gotta explode and go. Because that's exactly why it went that way this year, nothing going on nowhere, so they had the 4th of July fireworks in their yards. So I'd like to have us have some dialogue on that this summer or fall, that we can maybe get behind that. That would, I think would be beneficial to the citizens and their morale and a fun time one evening. Maybe we could work with Tom through the times to come up to make it a nice little event down there one night, hire a company to do it. I don't know what it costs, but I heard about $7,000 to do it for 1 year is what I heard.
Actually, that was I shoot for them, and I was the one that shot the show, and it was about $6,000.
That J&M displays?
No, I'm with Flash and Thunder,
Okay.
so.
We used to use J&M
Yeah, we used to be,
displays.
yep,
That's the last time down at the park, and
Yeah.
I think at that time it was probably about $5,000, $5,500 at that time for
Yeah.
that type of a show.
yeah.
But that's been how many years ago when I did it, so.
Was that the year that the
Exchange
guys from
Club.
the sheriff's department done it?
What's that?
Was that the year the guys from the sheriff's department done it?
Yeah.
That was $5,500 that year.
Yeah, but that's, I mean, that's when the Exchange Club was doing it, and
Okay. But yeah, I would like to actually move it back down to Deerwood area. Hopefully that'd be okay. Just because, so we have larger shells and have a bigger display, because when we're shooting in Evansdale in the city, you're limited to this size of the shell because there's fallout and there's distances you have to be away from houses and citizens, and being at the fire department, just don't do it if you want to have a nice show. So I'd
Tell
like
that
to,
to some of the people that shot them off on the 4th.
well, those are all Class C, so those
They're
are,
supposed to be, there's people that brought them in that no.
I see some probably Class Bs there too, but.
Yeah.
But you try to stop them, so it's one of those things. A shell explodes within 1.5 seconds, so, it's.
Joe, are you thinking about getting everything, when you say good old days, a parade, getting behind that, getting people to where the parade takes place that day and fireworks that night if went on? Or do you have another plan of,
My plan is I'd like to see the parade on Friday, like 6 o'clock, and then have a band, maybe at the firehouse, and a dance, get that moving. And then if we can try to get a bigger agenda, where I can get some land, maybe have like tractor truck poles, and just bring different things, and try to bring things back uptown, so it supports our business also. Cause I think, that's the most important, we gotta keep our businesses going, keep our city going. I don't wanna see carnival rides, I'll be honest with you, I just think they're trash, in my opinion, but that's what I see. I don't want my kids on them, so I don't wanna see other people's kids on them, so. That's where I am with those, I'll be honest with you.
One of the big draws was, and I think it's in 2 weeks, Ted always has that barbecue.
Yeah, and-
That was a big draw during the 3 days.
Right.
And it don't cost us a dime, he puts it all out.
Yeah.
But it draws a ton of people.
And I actually talked to Ted, I think Brad Blue for the end, but You know, that's even dying this year, I think you only had 2 people involved. So I wanna try to get all that, just bring it back, and so we can get going again, and instead of just stalemate, because, you know, like we were talking back there, Hudson's got a pretty great one, Port's got a good one. You know, we can do it, we just need a little support, everything can happen, and a little hard work, that's all we gotta do.
I don't know if you old timers in or around, I call myself an old timer, but I don't know if any of the Cucumber Club people are still around. That's who made it go. That made this whole town go as a Cucumber Club. It's just sure they raised money on golf tournament stuff over in Independence and all over too. But that was one of their major fundraisers, was right here in town. I mean, you had Main Street closed off, they had bathtub races, they had everything going on in this town, including the low rent amusement park or whatever that was here. But tell you what, parents still like to take their kids to them. And that's why I said, I don't know if any of the Cucumber people or any of the younger ones that were on that board are still around. I don't know, the guy he checked people in down county jail, I can't remember who you know who he was, Tom?
Cubic?
No, Cubic, yeah. Cubic wasn't there. But anyway, there was a guy that did the paperwork stuff on the intake.
Schmitty? Schmitty did that afterwards.
Did been afterwards. While he's thinking, if you're even considering the carnival ride, you need to book them now,
Yeah.
a year in advance. Otherwise,
I'm
yeah.
not even thinking about it.
They get very expensive.
I'm sure it'll be brought up, but you've gotta book them a year in advance, because their schedule is.
I mean, even pony rides. I mean, there's people around that even do that, you know, they have them hooked up, 4 or 6 of them they're hooked up to the thing to run, give kids pony rides, something for kids to do,
Yeah.
rather than nothing.
Yeah, I wanna have stuff
You
for kids, I wanna have the bounce houses and all the pony rides and stuff like that. I just don't know about carnival rides at this point.
Yeah, but
I don't feel-
it takes a
I'm not
group,
there yet with
it
that.
takes a group of people, that's why I was wondering if any of the people that used to do this thing out here were still around that you could talk to and get on board with
I
you.
am open to anybody that wants to help, throw an opinion, because that's how we're gonna learn, and that's how we're gonna have to build. And I wanna bring back the bathtub races and the outhouse races, and I don't even know, maybe we'll even throw cow chips, but
Well, we'll put it on the agenda, as I said, in the upcoming months, and we'll have a little more in-depth discussion about it, but God, I don't know, I've heard 3 or 4 volunteers speak up here potentially, Joe, so
hey,
I
I'll
might
take them.
wanna get their phone numbers.
Yep, I'll take them.
Just case by case.
I would be careful with the carnival. We were very disappointed the last 2 years we had them.
3 years.
The first year, only half of it showed up, but we had already paid the full amount.
Right,
And the next year, I don't know what they brought in, but half the rides didn't work and we still paid the full amount, so.
Yeah.
It's not a real good deal with people that take care of small cities like this.
right,
Now, I'm not talking about the ones that go to Minneapolis or something, but
right, the big scale ones.
they're not real reliable and you pay up front and there is no refund.
And what is the price of one of those carnival, what the carnival price is?
I think we paid something like $9,000 for the last one.
$12,000 you can get, but is that, we just went to a concert, right?
You can have a lot of stuff going in town for $9,000.
Exchange Club, we got a percentage.
Hmm?
When the Exchange Club did it, and I ran the celebration for the Exchange Club, we had the
Mhm.
carnival, we got a percentage.
Oh, did you?
Yeah.
We never did. I don't know if it wasn't negotiated that way or.
Yeah, we got a percentage.
So I've been going to county fairs and seeing what they're doing and watching and doing things, and talking to people. So I actually was sitting next to a board lady from Manchester, and they booked ZZ Top for $12,000, and they got half the sales, ticket sales. So it's like, we could do this. They're on their tail end of their tours, I'd say, but we could do this, we could bring in a name and
Yeah.
maybe something like that.
Well, I would suggest that, you know, as we talked about earlier, now's a good time to start planning, but start talking to some of the people who have been involved, and in a couple of months, you might come back with a different plan,
Right,
but that's part of it.
yeah, it is. But yeah, I just wanted some approval and so I can take the next step.
Yeah.
To move it forward.
All right, good,
All right, thank you for your time.
thanks.
Thank you, Joe.
Thanks.
Anybody else?
Yeah,
Yes, sir.
I was here last month, I'm sorry, I'm standing up here if you want me to. I was here last month, my name is Marty Morrow for 12 South Evans, and I was talking about the speeding. It's gone down, which is awesome, but we did want to put up a light, and my wife and I did call Mid-American, but they wanted you guys, the city, to call them because we don't have a pole on our side, so they wanted to go off the pole across the street, which we have no control over. I mean, it would still get billed to us at $7 a month, they said either $5 to $7 a month. And we're willing to pay that, but we need your guys' help to get that going, you know. So, and she said that the lady on the phone said they did something about, like, you could do it through tax assessment, we could pay it through our taxes, or if they wanted to bill us, they could bill us, but that's something that we need.
I don't know about that for a light. You'd have to pay Mid-America directly, I believe.
What
That's-
they-
the
what they
process
do
is-
directly.
I don't know, that's
I think it'd be a lot of paper chase if we go into assessing the property taxes and all that. I think if you want, I'm in favor of letting him put a light poles on my side of the street where the city's easement. I don't see a problem with, they wanna have a light there because of damages they've had, let them have the light. I hope it's not real bright at night to keep everything lit up like daytime, but, I mean, I'm in favor to try to eliminate your issue you've had, and so I support it, that's, they wanna do it their cause.
Yeah, we spoke a little bit about it, that needs to be on the agenda.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm familiar with the process.
Okay.
All right, we'll take that
Awesome,
into
thank you.
consideration.
thank you.
Anyone else?
I have a couple things from the library board, I'm sorry.
Okay, good.
I went to it last night, we had the new, so the library board has a new temporary director and an assistant. And it sounds like it's going pretty well, they have a lot of challenges that they're hitting, just because, they don't know of all the processes that they need to do, because the other one left and she was only there for 2 days when the other one was there, so there's a lot of, learning that they have to do, but a couple things that they brought up is the handicap door on this north side of the building.
It's already been addressed.
Is it? Okay. I didn't know if that had to be fixed or what, but,
Gary was in this morning.
oh, okay.
Gary.
And then what about, the only other thing that I thought I had to bring up was just a question to the attorney about the email, voting. Did Gary talk to you guys about that?
Yes, we did. We handled that as well.
Okay, then never mind.
So we had, talked about ways to possibly alleviate that voting situation. Is it ethical to change their bylaws to say that it has to be a majority of those present? And not necessarily a quorum of the full committee? Yeah. Because that would simplify things for that board quite a bit.
It happens frequently.
Yeah, they have 9 members right now, so for all 9 to show up is a huge challenge.
Well, they'd have to have 5
Mhm.
technically.
And that's a challenge.
That's still a challenge.
And then they wanna change it to all 5 have to be in favor, or the
No,
majority
no,
of
no.
the 5?
Yeah, no, that's not,
No which?
yeah,
That was 2 questions.
that's the way it used to be,
Yeah.
but no, that's not what they want, or not what they do.
Well, the last I heard, they wanted, if there was a quorum of 5, all 5 had to vote yes or it didn't pass.
But you remember we talked to Gary about that,
I
and
remember
he
that.
changed that.
Oh, he did?
Yes, he did.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because I heard he did not.
No, the meeting I was at, he had changed it, so I'm assuming he kept,
So it's back to the majority.
yeah.
No,
Just like we
Right,
do.
Christie?
Yeah, I mean, if there's 5 people there, 3 can't say yes and 2 no, they have to have, enough people, I don't know how that
A
works.
quorum.
Is there a
Well,
quorum?
5 would be a quorum,
But they can't, but, yes,
so 3 of the 5 would have to vote
yes,
for approval.
yes,
I
That's
think
right.
you're the council, same thing.
yeah,
And what I'm suggesting is if we could change that, the language, to say the majority of those present.
Yes.
Would say a minimum of 3.
So what you want is them to be able to vote even if there's no quorum.
or maybe
Have
change
to be
the
a
amount of board members there is, I don't know if that can be done, like, instead of 9, could there be 5? And then.
I think that has to be on the agenda.
I don't know how, I don't
Might
know how
have
that
to
works
figure
either.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know any way around the quorum, so that would be, it's a good thought.
Well, why is there 9 when there's only, 5 of us? Or what? 5 council members, I guess.
Maybe it should be changed, and 9 seems like an awful lot in the library board to me.
It really does,
But I think,
especially if they have.
It don't seem like enough if they can only get 5 there,
Well,
you know?
don't you have
There is
3
a lot of
communities
positive
also involved with that? How many communities are involved? You got
Gilbertville, Elk Run, and I think there's Raymond, no?
Just
Just
Gilbert.
Gilbertville and Elk Run.
Run.
Oh, sorry, then there's only 2, so,
3 coming in.
well,
And they each have a representative.
So is the Evansdale representatives not showing up, or the city representatives not showing up?
they don't currently have a Gilbertville, I know that the existing Gilbertville one is no longer there, but I don't know where the newest board member's from, I think she's from Elk Run, isn't she? And so, I don't think they have the Gilbertville one, and then there's two Evansdale ones, I think, that
Because I think,
didn't show up last night.
if I'm not mistaken, don't we have some boards that have the rule on there that if you miss X amount of meetings,
They do have one.
Yeah, they
that you
do,
can be replaced? Does the
Yes.
library have that?
yes.
And do they enforce it?
Well, yes, there's one particular member that's worse out of town, so he's gone a lot, and they were going to address that with him last night, but he was out of town again, so I think they're gonna have to address it. Gary, the vice president, or the president will address that with them, at their next meeting, I think. But yes, they do know about that, and they are gonna try to address that. But
And
all
we
the
still
other-
have 1 vacancy.
Yeah, I think so.
We reappointed someone tonight. But we still have 1 that we hope to get filled, and that would solve some of that.
Yeah.
It is summer too, but Gary's problem was that he didn't have enough votes to pay bills.
Yeah, last night at the meeting, there's not enough people to just pass bills, so then the question was brought up was, hey, can we just all, can he send out an email and say, can we have permission to pay the bills, and then can each of the members reply back and approve or not approve,
It could be, it has to be a special meeting.
does it? That's a good question.
Anyone else?
Yeah, I'd like to bring up, number one, I'd like to commend People Service, even though they're not here. It was awfully nice to get a report on what they were doing on a weekly basis, what processes they were going through.
What do you mean he's not there?
He's here.
Is he?
Yep.
Oh, fine. So it's nice to have that. You know what's going on, telling us what instances might be coming up in the future, where their budgets are lying, and what's going on. It's really nice to have that. And the reason I'm bringing it up is I would really like to see that go into the public works realm. I've asked numerous times of the city hall of what public works has got planned for that following week or what they did the previous week, and I always get, I don't know. It's nice to know when you're the ones getting the phone calls and like cold patch it down or, grass it and cut or this, that. At least if we had something, and this is very simple, at least we know which direction everything's going in, what's happening. Are we cutting trees, are we doing cold patch? Are we taking care of streets, are we building fences, down the street, things of that sort. So a report, and I would like to see what everybody else thinks about the matter, a report, not necessarily pinning them down or looking at it to manage, but more or less for us to know what's going on in the city with our city employees. What are they doing? What are people actually, getting for their tax dollars? Because we do get that question, what's going on?
Okay, anyone else?
We're in the council report, or you waiting for your report, man?
Well, I
Council report?
kind of gave my report in the RAGBRAI.
Oh, okay. Are you done then?
Yeah.
I wanted to bring something up, that, was a little disturbing to me. Brian Wirtz went down and tagged a property at 4024 to mow and gave a notice, and I guess gave direction to mow the yard. They went down and mowed, but they mowed the wrong yard. I have the information here of the two properties, and I've talked to this lady 3 times, Jen Quas, and she lives in Oregon. The lady that lives there is a renter, and they're just doing a transfer of who's gonna be the new renter, the greenhouse. And that's the yard and I can give you the documentation. She said when they were there mowing, they damaged some stuff in the back. She said, why is my yard being picked out when the neighbor next door is just as tall or taller? So I went over immediately over that day and looked, and the blue house at 4024 that Brian tagged to mow is the one that should have got mowed. So what I'm asking, I know we all make mistakes, but I'm asking that this lady gets a letter of apology from the city and that these fees are taken off of her address. And then let's go mow 4024 that Brian had on his sheet here in June to mow the yard and make this straight to the right people. Which one you want? 4024 is what Brian had on his sheet to go mow.
But which one?
4018.
48.
Yeah. And she's very upset, and I'm not gonna go into all the dialogue she said about different things.
She's emailed that.
Yeah, she told me she talked to you. And, I don't know why we didn't settle this, just go look. I drive Lafayette a lot, and it didn't take anybody with any brains to go down and see we mowed the wrong property. So that's what I'm asking tonight on the record, that she gets that taken off of her money due and send her a letter of apology to Oregon, not the 4018 address, and then bill the house at 4024 and go mow the yard and bill like Brian had on the sheet.
My understanding, it was not a mistake. That yard definitely needed it.
No,
That was mowed.
not at 4018, not at 4018.
Well, it was already mowed when you saw it.
I seen them there mowing it that day, and it wasn't as long as the one next door. That shouldn't be the issue. The issue is we have a registered log that says to mow 4024, and we're mowing 4018. That's not fair or right. So
That
I'm
was the
asking that-
property, that was the property I was instructed to mow, so there was no mistake on Public Works side of that.
What?
4018.
I'm not arguing with you. I'm going by the facts that I have in the customer that called.
I'm just saying, you keep saying that we mowed the wrong property. The property that I was told to mow was 4018.
Well, his sheet says 4024.
I don't see his sheets. He just tells me what properties are non-compliance and those are the properties we mow.
Steve, that's Jim's sheet,
This is to mow that property, don't matter.
but that's.
This was May, actually. That was my other question, but Brian's not here. I'll come in and talk to him. When we put a 3-day notice to mow on May 20th, but it was July 13th, I believe, when they mowed this property. Is it that long a time span between when they get the notice, 3 days that we're gonna mow, and 5 or 6 weeks before they actually go mow it.
No, because that's all their sheep. We have a new sheep for July.
It wasn't on July. This is in May when he cited this.
That happens quite a bit. It can be on So
I think, yeah, I think I'm right about, I'm not blaming anybody, I'm just saying, her house shouldn't have got mowed. This is the one that should have got mowed. And that's the one that was on Brian's report, and I don't have July's. I can only go by what I have currently through for Brian through May. So I'm asking if this just gets addressed, if correction needs to be, and I'd like to be on the loop, what we do, to send her a letter and put it on this property and have the guys go mow the 4024 that I have record of, that's what they're supposed to mow. So if Chris is telling me, I'm a little confused if he says that's where I was told to go, and I get paperwork in my packet that says go to the other house, there's just a confusion, communication somewhere in there.
Yeah, well, it doesn't always come from Brian either, right? There's, notice, not one
Well,
of the,
we send notices, but.
On May 24th, we mowed 4024 and 3773. So there was no mistake on my part.
Chris, I'm not trying to put any blame. I'm going by what I have on the reports, reported, what got done. On the date I have, the wrong house got mowed. If you mowed the other one prior to that, great. But anybody, when you leave this council chamber, go down the road and look at the two. The one next door is longer than 4018 because you mowed it. And hers shouldn't have got mowed, plus she sent me receipts. She had her yard detailed by a company and sent me all the receipts. She spent $600-700 in her her backyard along the fence line, putting plantings and stuff in. I'm only going by what I've seen and what she told me.
and I had asked, I guess you were off at that time. So I'd asked Megan about that. And Megan's understanding was that it was in violation, needed to be mowed, that property you were talking about.
Which one?
4018,
It was never on any report that I got.
that's not up to date, Steve, that's what I was trying to say.
This should not have got this. This is what the report said was gonna mow. Now, if the reports aren't gonna be accurate, then don't put them in the packet. I'm not gonna argue. I think it's an actual true fact. I'm trying to say the right thing for the citizens. I don't care who did what, when, and where. Let's just correct the issue and mow the 4024. If it needs mowed again and not being mowed, there's an issue. And the 4018, that her yard was not as tall as the one next door when you mowed it, because it went by when they were mowing it. Because this lady called me, her renter called her and she called me.
Well, she had emailed me a couple of times, and I replied back to her that it was my understanding that it was valid, that it was mowed. So, I wasn't about to send her a letter apologizing for something we had to do.
I don't think it was needed to mow the yard by what I have, the facts I have from everything. I mean, I tried to do the homework, like people say, and it's here in front of me. If we're gonna say we're not gonna go by this, then don't send these reports out to us to look at. We want to verify something, especially when a customer calls you, a resident, and says something to you. I'm gonna go look at it and investigate and see what I come up with. And all the information I have on the reports from Brian and the assessor's office of the houses, at this particular time, we mowed the wrong property. Now, he had direction to do 4018, great. I'm not disputing that we mowed it, but it should have been the one next door. Just go look at it when you go home.
How do these notices get delivered?
Well, Brian, how do they get generated?
Well, I know Brian will go by and like write them up, but does he have like a thing that he sticks in the door, or does he email, or does he send them, does he mail it? Because like if it's a landlord-tenant situation, you stick it on the door, the tenant's not gonna care. If they're not mowing, they're not gonna care. And so the landlord's not gonna know. So do we mail it to the landlord, or do we stick it on the door and just say, if you don't get it done, we're gonna do it, then we're gonna bill the owner? How does that get?
This owner is out of state.
So the process is Brian will give them a 24-hour notice on their door. And then if they haven't come into compliance in that 24 hour, then our office, we have a very extensive spreadsheet that has all the information on it that is daily we keep up on this. And then we send out the letter, because we charge a fee, et cetera, we give them the time, we put it on a calendar, to follow up, to Brian and by there to follow up with it. So it's, it's a process.
So do you mail the letter though to the
Yes, we
property or
do.
to the owner?
Both.
Both.
What she comments in her email, and we're belaboring this way farther than it needs to go. She's saying when she lives in Oregon, I think the envelope said the 9th it was mailed. So when she got it, I think, the last day of the mowing time limit was that day, the next following day was going to be the time they should mow it. And the day before, I have the thing straight, that they mowed it the last day of the 3-day notice. And she says, I should have been given through this day to have my tenant mow it, because we had all intentions of mowing. And she sent me a picture of her yard prior to the mow, and if you want that, I can give it to you, but their yard was not as tall as this one at 4024 is. So if we don't want to do anything about it, fine. I think it's wrong, I don't think she should be billed over $155 plus administration fees. Put it on the other property that's out of compliance right now.
Well, I will say there's very few people that we have to mow their yard that don't believe that it was unjust. They all believe it was unjust.
And I want, not tonight, but I want to see Brian's log showing me 48 meeting mowing in that month. You're saying in July, it was on July, so I want to see the July register that shows it on there, that 4018 needed to be mowed. So I can contact her if she wants to go back to me after this meeting.
Anything else? Going once, going twice, I need a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
We're adjourned.
What's going on with Munger Park? That place, I seen it Saturday, and they had a big sign up at the entrance, birthday party. And cars parked all the way out to Lafayette, there had to be over 100 people there. In Munger Park for a birthday party. With 2 tables.
I don't know.
I mean, now they're down there Monday, and they go by, and there's something, they're tearing trees around the shelter. You got 3 monster dead elms that don't get touched. What the hell are they tearing pine trees down for?
When the trees that they cut down, they took Joe down. They took Joe Collins down, and marked the trees, the ones that needed to be cut down.
Why do we need 2 Collins to drop trees?
He didn't drop the trees.
No, but the ones they did.
He marked the trees that were dead, that were not gonna make it. So those were the trees that got.
That was mostly.
At least you got rid of it.
Yeah.